Hey guys, welcome back to lovely Calverton, New York. Alongside Tom Hunt, I'm James with HobbyKing, and we're back with another product profile. And this one we teased on the weekly update right at the end of the year, and now it has been released. This is our version of the J3 Piper Cub, but this is the NE1. We put it in a Navy scheme, and Tom's been flying around. You got a chance to test fly it. It flies fantastic. A beautiful trainer plane, about 1400 millimeter in wingspan. We could get more into specs when I take it back later. But for the sake of this, we're gonna have Tom fly it line of sight, and then we have a surprise for you. But Tom, a little quick, you've gotten a chance to fly this. What do you think so far?
Yeah, it's a great fine little Cub. The foam on the airplane is beautifully smooth, and from a distance, it doesn't look like a foam airplane. So with the recessed skins on it to make it look like a silk-covered airplane, silk-and-dope airplane, it looks the presence of a Cub no matter where you're standing around it. And it flies like a Cub. Yeah. It's just the greatest flying little model. You can build a scale Cub in any size, even the smallest Cubs, and they fly like Piper Cubs.
Yeah.
And this is no different. It can do aerobatics, it can do your typical low rolls and loops, stall turns. It flies low and slow great, so it's great to watch it go by, just putting along like that little 65 horsepower motor, just barely carrying this thing along. And the color scheme is good enough so that you can fly it a ways away. You've got the large decals on it to give you some visual reference. It does have a lighter bottom than top, so it is more difficult to see on a gray day, but it's not impossible to see. So I would say that it's your prototypical park flyer. It's lightweight, it's got a light wing loading, so yeah, it's a great model to fly. It lands slowly. Anybody that can handle any other Cub from any other manufacturer would love to have this in their stable.
Now obviously guys, this is an HKing release, and like most our releases, it's going to run on the most common pack, 2200 3S. So what we're going to do is, again, Tom's going to be the pilot for the day, pilot extraordinaire. He'll fly it line of sight for a little bit, show you all the moves, any aerobatics you might do, but for the most part you're not doing that, and then we'll land it, and then we'll go up and do an FPV flight. So let's get started.
Okay, take off the HobbyKing J3 Cub. Flies like a Cub, very docile. Up for a stall turn, and around she goes. Very pretty. Another low pass for the camera, low and slow. A little light breeze here today, probably around 3 to 5 miles an hour. Not terrible. Trick is not to try and let the airplane get ahead of you. In other words, don't try and fly it through all the little bumps and grinds. It is a Piper Cub, it's lightly loaded. There's no reason to be trying to adjust for every little thing that changes because of the breeze. All right, let's take her upstairs and do some mild aerobatics. And an aileron roll. Very nice. Can make it actually pretty axial without too much rudder command. Do a nice big gentle loop. Very good. And one more stall turn to the right this time, if it'll do it. A little harder to the right than the left because you're fighting P-effect and torque on the propeller. Moves out quite well for a Cub. Quite quick. As an observation airplane used during the war, it was quite often that these airplanes would be flying in pretty lousy weather, just under the clouds. They'd probably have no more than 600 or 700 feet of visibility, you know, low cloud decks, looking for tanks, looking for infantry, and then they just pop up into the clouds to get out of the gunfire, try and get away. Our cloud deck is probably about 2,000 feet, so there's not much of me chance getting up that high today, but
30 seconds.
And another big loop.
20 seconds.
Into an aileron and rudder roll. Flying her low and slow, like a good Cub should be able to do. Very gentle commands. A little bit of aileron, a little bit of proverse rudder to keep her inside the turn. Great flying little model. Now bring her in for a touch and go. That one wasn't bad for all the lumpiness in this field. I've had a bit of a hard winter so far, a lot of frost. Get a little lower, inverted is very nice. Just needs a tiny bit of down elevator, inverted. Does take a bit more effort to keep the wings level when it's inverted, obviously with all that weight now on top of the wing, but a skilled pilot could easily hold that airplane inverted. I don't think it'd be very prototypical for a Cub, however, because it did not have an inverted fuel system. In fact, the tank was fueled from just ahead of the windshield, and it had a filler filler stick sticking up, sort of a float system, tell where the fuel was in the tank in the forward section of the airplane. I'm sure if you ran the airplane inverted for very long, it starts spilling out. Come in a little bit faster this time, try and grease it in. Yep.
All right, thank you so much, Tom Hunt. It's always a pleasure to get outside with Tom. Whenever he flies a Warbird or any model for us, he always makes it look like the scale version of itself. So it's always a pleasure, and you can see it is a great flying plane. So what we're going to do now for the rest of this product profile, we're going to run through the specs. Then we're going to show you everything that comes out of the box, all the individual pieces, and then we're going to take you on a quick step-by-step of how to put this bad boy together. And then that surprise I alluded to at the beginning when I was outside with Tom, the FPV portion. You've all seen it by now on the product video. We release numerous videos on Instagram. You've seen it on the weekly update, but popping on a pan and tilt and getting inside the cockpit is really, really a great experience. So we'll touch on that though a little later. And then at the end of this video, we'll show you how to install that FPV setup, so then you'll be good to go. Now let's get into the specs. So first things first, we got a 1400 millimeter wingspan. Then if I take off the propeller, which is a 12x9, disregard the fact that our propeller is broken in half. The last time we flew it, the last flight we took on it, Alex behind the camera was getting gorgeous chase footage, and then we had a little collision. But so we're gonna have to get ourselves a normal prop, but you got a 12x9 propeller, and yours will have the yellow trim. We also broke that prop earlier as well, but hey, it is what it is. So guys, we'll take the canopy off here and you'll see the motor. That is a 3648 700 kV motor. And then the ESC is a 45 amp ESC with BEC. And then if I take you underneath, one of the beautiful features of this model is when you look inside the canopy, as you'll see here, that the power lead, we've already spliced in that JST connector so that you can attach your FPV if you're going to do the pan and tilt and you're going to install the FPV. But again, we'll show you more of that in a little bit. Also guys, that ESC is 4S capable, but if you really want that scale flight, there's no reason to not run it on a 3S, and you can go up from a 2200 3S, which I have here, you could go up to a 2600 3S, and you're gonna get just, you know, a great flight out of that. The J3 Cub also comes with 4 pre-installed 9-gram servos, so you're gonna have one for each aileron, one for the rudder, and one for the elevator. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the spec, and now let's get on to the build. When you first get your J3 Cub out of the box, the first thing you're going to notice right off the bat is the finish of the paint. As Stuart said in the announcement daily, being that this is an HKing plane, you wouldn't expect maybe the paint scheme that you get from a Durafly model, but Stuart had a hand in this and made sure this thing looks flawless. This is an actual, the Navy scheme is an actual real scale scheme right down to the last little detail on it, and you can really see it taking it out of the box. So what you're going to get upon taking it out of the box, let's run down. You will have your fuselage. Again, you can see the scale detail on it. You're going to get your wing. That's going to come in 2 sections. And again, you can really see the foam finish on this thing. It looks beautiful. Then you're going to have your elevator. You're going to have your rudder, your propeller, which is 12 by 9. Then you've got your landing gear assembly, and we'll show you in a little bit how we put all that together. Then all your peripherals, you have your 3 wing spars that are included, bags for your rods, your control horns, your screws, your tail wheel, and of course that FPV mount, which we'll get to later. All right, so there's what you can expect to see upon taking your Cub out of the box. Now, as far as getting it together, let's take you right to the first step. You want to assemble your rudder and your elevator. You want to definitely glue those into place. Make sure you attach your control horns. The next step you want to do is assemble your landing gear. As you can see here, it comes with 4 springs and a little middle assembly, so you want to attach the 2 longer springs to the top of the landing gear. The shorter ones, you'll place the included heat shrink over those and really secure them nice and tight. Then you're going to attach your wheels, and they come with a beautiful little feature. I love the Cub. It says J3 Cub right on the hubcap. Looks beautiful. Then your next step is heading over to the tail wheel. You want to get that attached, and there's a bag with all the pieces included to make sure that goes together, but mostly it's just those 2 screws. Then the next step, as you can see here, guys, this is where the biggest change comes with the J3 Cub, is when you're installing the wing. You'll see here, the original Cub, anyone who purchased it in the yellow scheme or the original L4 scheme would have noticed that there was only 1 spar back then, and a lot of people complained that the wing was wobbly. So Stuart fixed that. He put 3 spars in there. So you're going to put all 3 spars across and assemble that wing together. And then your best bet, since it comes apart, you might as well run a little glue along the top of the wing and just secure it down nice and tight, because after that, it's easy to take off and put in your car. It should fit there no problem. So your next step is connecting your struts, and they go together very simply. There are 4 included plastic pieces that are going to be glued into place, and then you attach your struts to those. Now, before you attach the struts to the bottom of the fuselage, you're going to now attach the landing gear right through those struts, as you can see. Then your next step would be attaching the tail struts. So guys, and then your very last step is going to be attaching your non-Alex broken up back there propeller to your J3 Cub and going out and fly. Now, if you have no intention of FPVing this bad boy, then this is where the video ends for you. But if you are interested in assembling that FPV, getting out there and putting the FPV on here, then stay tuned, because we're going to go through the build. But first, let's show you some of that footage, guys. We didn't want to do an entire flight. As you can see here, we've already done 5 minutes of flying around with Tom Hunt. We didn't want to do a full flight, but you could see the guys in Australia have been using this thing. We were using it a bunch, and it is just a lot of good fun. The way the canopy is molded, the way those windows are molded, it really caters to giving you that feeling like you're really flying this plane. That's one of the beautiful features of it, because the fact that this plane is just so stable and docile, you don't really have to worry when you're under the goggles so much about controlling the plane. You can really appreciate the pan and tilt, turning left, turning right, and seeing that camera move, looking up and down. It's all really good fun, and it's very impressive. Something that, you know, showing people, letting people just take rides in the cockpit while you fly the plane is enough to get people really excited about FPV. And we couldn't think of a better way to do it. So we're excited that Stuart included this FPV mount. It made a whole bunch of sense, and you're going to see more of this from planes coming from us in the future, because we think definitely, as far as plane goes, this is one of the best options as far as FPV goes, is throwing them in a warbird such as this in a nice docile trainer plane. Also, guys, you do not need to put a pan and tilt in this plane as well. I mean, we did it this way, and if you don't have head tracking, you could easily use the pan and tilt and set it up in your transmitter, where you could put it on slider switches, so you don't necessarily need to look left and right to turn. You could just put them on switches, and it could work that way. I know Tom Hunt was explaining that he doesn't actually like the head tracking feature. He was complaining about it when he was flying it, but I love the head tracker, so to each his own. Alright guys, and that does it for the flying footage. There's not much more to show there, so now let's take it to how you get the FPV into your J3 Cub. So I'm going to show you quick here how we rigged up our Cub, and if you're going to do the same thing, then this is definitely going to help you out. So as you can see, this is already installed. You see you got the pan and tilt. All we did for the first part of it was take the seat out. The back seat comes out very easily, just pulls right out. There was a little glue holding that down, and then we glued down our pan and tilt mount. After we installed the pan and tilt camera to the included mount, we glued that right down in there, and then I just dropped the leads through the provided hole, and that's where we'll go for the next step when you set it all up. So now guys, again, I already have this all installed, but what I did was make virtually a replica of the system so you can see just how it all fits in there, because you definitely want to get cooling on your FPV transmitter. So what I did was installed the FPV transmitter. I'll show you a second. It's just behind the motor. There's a little hole in the fuselage. It's a perfect compartment for it and allowed for a little cooling in there. But then to get my antenna back through, I just used some SMA extensions. As you see here, we sell them on our website. They actually come in a 2-pack, and I use both of them because, as you can see, if I fit it in, this is inherently the setup. You don't need anything else extended, but if your pan and tilt was sitting here, everything gets dropped through, and then that puts the transmitter is about there in the plane, and then I have enough extension to get my antenna back through the fuselage. Can you see that? So then I'll take you into the fuselage. So Alex, you can probably see straight down here. That's where my transmitter is.
Oh yeah, we see it.
See him right there? So I used a little heat shrink just to hold that for that loop. And then if we come to the fuselage, you'll see obviously the JST power's already plugged in. And what I did was I just hot glued all the FPV wires that go from the transmitter back to the camera and the antenna. I just hot glued them to the side of the fuselage so they're out of the way. So inherently, that's how it will look inside the plane. If that's the nose, I have my FPV transmitter getting cooling there, and then everything else gets sent up back through the cabin. So guys, then from there, setting up a pan and tilt will just be a matter of what receiver and transmitter combination you're using. We went with the Taranis and an FR Sky receiver, and I found a video online that helped me set up the pan and tilt in a matter of about a half an hour. I was able to get it all rigged up. So again, if you're going to use a pan and tilt, the Fat Shark pan and tilt fits in there perfectly. Any old FPV transmitter system should work as long as you have the leads long enough to get that extension. But again, you can put the FPV transmitter anywhere you like, however you want to build it. We just thought it was a cleaner way to do it this way, so that's what we chose. All right, guys, and there you have it. That's going to do it for this product profile. Sorry it's so long, but we just wanted to make sure we showed you a full flight and had Tom Hunt do all the tricks that this thing can do and show you how scale it can fly. We wanted to take you through the FPV build and, of course, show you coming out of the box and showing you how easy it is to put together. We hope you guys enjoy it, and remember that not only is this version of the Cub available with those 3 struts, all the older versions that have been released, people have already been getting the yellow one and the L4 with that beefed up wing to really help you fly. So guys, all 3 versions available now on HobbyKing.com. That'll do it for us here in the New York studio. Stay tuned, more products coming, more changes on the way, and we'll see you next time.